we like when there's synergy. Like there could be an absolutely great technology, but like, is there a genuine need for it right now for our customers? Is this like a solution to an issue our customers are facing or not? So when there's synergy, when there's, opportunity right off the bat, that just, in my opinion, helps build it more quickly.
Welcome back to the Lessons for Tomorrow podcast, a motivational poster in your ear. I'm your guest host, Arlind Rojba, Partner Manager at AmericanEagle.com. In this episode, we're going to be diving into partnerships at AmericanEagle.com. To discuss this, I am joined by Jerry Boduch, VP of Partnerships and Strategic Alliances, and Peter Gavrilos, Partner Director from AmericanEagle.com. So just to kind of start here, I figured we'd start with intros for the audience, explain ourselves, our roles, how long we've been here. So I can kind of kick things off. Arlind Rojba, Partner Manager. I've been here about 3 years now. As far as the partnerships that I manage a lot of our e-commerce checkout solutions, digital marketing partners, kind of a lot of these third-party solutions that you see. Peter, over to you.
Yeah, cool. Nice to meet you guys. Peter Gavrilos. I have been here now for like 5.5 going on 6 years. Ever since joining AmericanEagle.com, I've been a part of the partnerships team led by Jerry. Nowadays, I focus on, a more specific subset of strategic partnerships, but, I've been exposed to a ton of them, throughout the years here. So currently focusing on, a few of our e-commerce platforms, our accessibility partners, on-site search, some of our PIMs and DAMs, but, I know a little bit about a lot of things. So yeah, with that, I'll pass it over to Jerry.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Jerry Boduch, super excited to be part of the podcast. Appreciate the invite. So I'm VP of Strategic Alliances here at American Eagle. I've been with the company for over 25 years. Started as a developer right out of school. When I started, there was about 10 of us, and the company's obviously grown quite a bit since then. Been doing partnerships for about 15 years or so. How that started was I was a solutions engineer working with our sales team, helping them find the right tools to help our customers. And we started to form partnerships with a lot of those companies. And now the team has about 8 people on it. And then we obviously work with all parts of the company. So super proud of all the things we've been able to accomplish and how many customers we've been able to help with our partners, and have a great ecosystem of technologies and folks we work with. So yeah.
It's really, really great to see. And Jerry, that's actually a perfect segue into what we kind of want to start this with. So let's talk a little bit about just the history of the partnerships teams and our partners in general. Sitecore is currently one of our biggest partners, and it's probably one of our oldest partners too. So you want to kind of dabble into the history of that a little bit and how we got started and kind of the state of it now?
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started at American Eagle, we were doing a lot of website development builds using Microsoft technologies, in particular ASP.NET technologies, and we were doing everything from scratch. And so as the market evolved, CMS solutions, DXP solutions, folks like Sitecore, WordPress, Kentico started showing up in the market. And they started coming over to see us and courting us because they knew we were a great company and we did great work, and they had a great product. So they wanted companies like us to take on that solution and service that solution for their customers and help them sell it. And so Sitecore was one of those customers. We were at a conference in Chicago, and one of their sales reps came by the booth and wanted to show us the product. We invited them to the office, and a couple months later, we became partners. We really dove in, started training our developers, and 15 years later, we're one of the top Sitecore partners, and we're proud to, service a ton of customers and continue to, evolve and build that team out. But that was the beginning, and that was one of our first partners. But we realized that we worked with a lot of other technology vendors to service customers. As an example, when we would do e-commerce sites, we would recommend that people have PayPal as a checkout option. We did a little bit of research and found that you could actually become a PayPal partner and officially get credit for those referrals. And so we signed up for that partner program, and then we slowly looked at a lot of the different vendors that we were working with to see if they had partner programs and how we could work with them more closely to service our customers together and to do a good job on their entire ecosystem of solutions. So yeah, that was the beginning. And slowly we started looking at more and more partners and more categories, and it just kept growing and growing from there. And now it's a super important part of our business, from the marketing, sales, delivery, and ongoing support with our customers. So
yeah, that's awesome. And Peter, I want to get your perspective on this too. How's it kind of grown? Obviously, Jerry's been here since day one with partnerships, but in your time at AmericanEagle.com, how's it grown that as you've seen?
Yeah, I think when I first joined, and this is like 5.5 years ago now, we were still at the growth point, and I think we're always growing. But when I first joined, it was let's vet a ton of partners, let's add a ton of partners to the network. And I think nowadays we have an already vast existing network. Like, how do we capitalize on that? Like, how do we tap into the ones that make the most sense for our clients? So nowadays, present day, I feel like it is, less numbers focused. Let's add a ton of partners to the network just to have them in our back pocket. And it's more so, let's look at what we already have. Let's focus on them. Let's see where we can plug them in and how they're applicable. So yeah, I think our focus maybe has shifted a little bit since I first started here, but I think, we're tapping into our existing network and really capitalizing on the functionality of our existing partners that we already have.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a different mindset, a different approach to partnerships from day one to now. And just kind of sticking with Peter here, can you speak a little bit more to that approach that we have nowadays, where you mentioned it's probably more focused, not as much of a vast reach out? So kind of detail that a little more.
Yeah, I think when we add a partner to our network, it's purposeful, and there's a true and genuine need for it. So as a agency that, not to toot our own horn, but we have a great reputation. We get a lot of inquiries, and we welcome those inquiries, but I think we're, maybe slightly more selective because we want to identify certain aspects of a partner that we think work within our network. So, do they offer functionality that differs from any other partner that we already have? Are they trying to hit a specific market in terms of size? Are they more cost conscious? Are they more enterprise? And if so, does that apply to a certain subgroup of our clients and prospects that we're currently working with? So actually, Arlind doesn't want to toot his own horn either, but he does a lot of this partner vetting. Basically, speaking with these potential partners, seeing if there is a good fit somewhere within our ecosystem for them, looping in the appropriate team members to vet out the technology, whether that's solutions engineers, whether that's other members of our team, and then from there moving forward with some sort of official partnership. And then, the hope there is we have a first deal, we get a win under our belt, that's awesome. And then we have great team members like Yelena and Julia and our entire marketing staff that kind of help perpetuate those great stories to hopefully drum up more business for both organizations. So that's, from my perspective, how I see the process working. Jerry, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the partnership, when we establish one, has to be something that's beneficial for, number one, our clients, and number two, ourselves and our partners, right? So if we can't have all those components in a partnership, then we can talk and have calls, but it's going to be really hard to really make it work for everybody, right? And so it's super important to look at those factors of, hey, is this product going to help our customer or a subset of our customer?
Yeah.
Is how are we going to make it work with this partner, right? Do they have the right approach to things? How are we going to invest time in this partnership? How are they going to invest time in us, right? So all of those different things have to align for it to be a really good, mutually beneficial partnership. And yeah, that means you have to be more selective. You have to challenge each other. You have to really, just be more selective and not just, think that you can make every partnership and relationship work, because sometimes they're just not a fit.
Yeah. And to add to that, we don't mean to be selective just because we're like, ooh, selective, but we like when there's synergy. Like there could be an absolutely great technology, but like, is there a genuine need for it right now for our customers? Is this like a solution to an issue our customers are facing or not? So when there's synergy, when there's, opportunity right off the bat, that just, in my opinion, helps build
Yeah.
it more quickly.
No, for sure. Like if a customer comes to us and says, "Hey, we've worked with this technology, can you work with them?" And we find that those are sometimes the best ways to find new partners is when a customer of ours has already selected that technology or that partnership, and we just didn't know about it, and then we do get introduced. We already have a mutual customer. They're happy. We learn how we worked with them, and then that we turn that into more opportunity together with other customers or just a deeper relationship with that particular technology.
Yeah, it's definitely a very detailed process and can sometimes take quite a bit. I mean, you're never going to find that first one right off the bat, unfortunately. I mean, it's fantastic if you do, but we've got a plethora of experience sitting at, I don't know, call it 250 official partners. So it feels like we know what we're doing sometimes, but you never know when that one-off scenario comes up. So yeah, just kind of wanted to talk about some of these partnerships here. Obviously, you have the e-commerce partners and you have the CMS partners, but I wanted to dive into the ones that honestly apply to both the CMS and the e-commerce. So thinking your accessibility, your search, your digital marketing tools, those are kind of partners and tools that can be used with everybody. So kind of just wanted to talk about, how our focus looks on those and maybe what direction we see or what trend we see with those right now as far as partnerships goes.
Yeah. So what I think, makes a great partnership as well is the ability to apply the technology kind of across the board. So like you said, both CMS and e-commerce. So a few of those things that you listed, on-site search is, in my opinion, a necessity for both. Whether you're transactional and selling something or whether you're content focused and trying to search through thousands of PDFs, you need an on-site search to pull keywords. A majority of end users nowadays in 2024, when they're looking for something on a site, they're not going to like scroll through hundreds of pages. They're, convenience is very important. So they want to look something up really quick and be able to find it. So on-site search, definitely applicable to both. Accessibility is really important for kind of just the end user's journey. We want to make sure it's, as effortless and as easy as possible, regardless of an individual's ability. So if, you are somehow handicapped or disabled, we want to make sure that your user experience matches, anyone else's. So yeah, whether that means you're trying to buy a piece of clothing online or you're trying to find your local libraries, hourly times of availability. So yeah, I think those two most definitely are applicable to any type of website. Same with digital marketing. I don't know, Jerry, if there's anything you want to add there.
Yeah, I mean, I think tools like email marketing providers or CRMs, those are also kind of applicable across the board. And there's industry-specific CRMs, there's industry-specific email tools. But yeah, everyone should be emailing their customers or prospecting. So those are other tools that are, kind of tangential to the web experience that are needed. As tools for SEO, tools to make sure that your site is found accessible, right, for everybody, but the search engines can find them, and also more and more like distributing content across the board and making sure that you have a good content journey. So where are you storing your assets? So digital asset managers and compliance. So cookie consent and privacy is a big topic that comes up a ton, and making sure that the sites that we build, the users that go there are comfortable with how our customers are handling their data, their privacy, the way cookies are handled and used on the site, that we're documenting that properly. So yeah, those are all kind of industry topics and things that are super important on all sites. And some of those things, we can consult on and be experts with, but we need outside tooling that we can partner with. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular when you kind of might think a company is a small tool, and at the end of the day, they might make the biggest difference on a website, right? Whether you're trying to apply cookie consent and privacy policy to avoid a lawsuit, or accessibility to avoid a lawsuit, or even just throwing in an email marketing tool because you're like, hey, I really need to reach out to my current clients because I'm having a sale or there's a new article released. So, it seems like everything here is really powerful. And just to kind of expand on that, how can just the power of partnerships and partnerships in general be leveraged in pushing business and driving business forward, whether it's for us and the partner, the end user, the client, whoever it might be?
Yeah, I think, so when I think of like the power of partnership, we're kind of the mindset here at American Eagle is the customer, right? Customer is always the priority. So the main thing that I think about and the team thinks about is, how is this tool, how is this decision helping our customers succeed, right? And I think by having this ecosystem, this network of partners, we can go beyond just the scope of work being their website. It can go a lot deeper into other pieces of their business, how we help them grow their business, how we can help them, just have a great ecosystem that's stable and they're comfortable with and is always on and we can support. So that's the first thing, is focusing on that customer. And I think because we focus on the customer, that does propagate and our partners see that, and then hopefully they trust us to bring us in with their technology to other opportunities and other business, right? And so it helps us by focusing on our customers through our partners by getting even more business from our partners. So that's kind of the benefit that we get. And if we can do a great job with those partner solutions, then it helps our partners look good as well, right? So that's, to me, kind of the power of partnership and all the different components of it.
Yeah, I think the power of partnership literally lies within the name. It's a partnership. So when we're working with these external companies, there is some sort of mutual benefit. We are, helping our clients by, using their technology, and we're solving our clients' issues, with this vast, arena of options and technologies. And then, like Jerry said, vice versa. Hopefully, they see that we're an amazing agency and we're great at what we do too. So when they have clients that have a need pop up, we're the first thing that comes to mind as well. So yeah, I mean, we all want mutual success in the end. That's the basis of our business. So.
Yeah, and I think having those relationships helps also when things aren't going exactly as planned, right? So obviously, we try to always do what's right and what's best and do it in a quick and efficient manner. But sometimes there's miscommunications or there's challenges. When we can call another third party vendor, our partner, and help explain to them our perspective, our customer's perspective, we can be the advocate for our customer and move things along faster and get them to the finish line or get them to the next stage in their journey quicker. And so I think those relationships are important, not only from a business development perspective, but then from a efficiency, from a customer satisfaction perspective as well, right? So I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, last thing I'll add is like there's so much power in maintaining relationships with people. You think it's like so simple, like we all do it in our everyday lives, but between the partnerships team here at American Eagle managing relationships, we're driving like 30-40% of net new opportunities that come through our door. So just managing a regular cadence, checking in on people, asking about updates regarding their technologies, where are they currently playing, who are they targeting. Through those day-to-day discussions, you're able to find overlaps. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of incredible just to see in my 3 years here that partnerships really makes a huge difference. Coming in, it wasn't something that I knew existed, but it's been really awesome to see and kind of grow as we've grown as a team. So kind of moving off of partnerships a little bit, staying in the same breath, but kind of talking about our clients, potential prospects, things like that. Sometimes they're not quite sure about what they want to do, right? And they're looking at maybe some account managers, project managers, sales reps, whoever it might be within the company on, recommendations on who they should go with or what they should do. Just kind of in your years of experience, what are some common questions that you guys have seen from account managers that might have come from a client or a prospect in terms of, what tool they should choose or who they should go with or things like that?
price. I'm just kidding. But that is one question.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to requirements gathering. Price may be one of those, but in addition to price, it is their tech stack. What technologies play well with what they currently have or they're hoping to implement with AmericanEagle.com. Are they looking for any certain specific functionality? One partner might have that over the other. So I think, whether it is the customer divulging all that information to us, or if it is the salesperson, account manager, project manager, kind of asking these questions in order to gather the requirements for us to make, an informed decision with them. That's really important.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's the value that solution can offer, and the value for that particular client, right? So, the price comes into play, but the price could be high if the value's high. If the price is high and the value is low, then probably it's not a fit, right, for that particular customer. So yeah, I think it, like Peter said, it boils down to the requirements. How are they going to make the decision? How are they going to support that decision long term? I think the company and the behind that product is also important in some cases, right? Like, what is their roadmap? What does the future look like for that company? How do they see things playing together in the ecosystem? So that's another consideration that we look at. We help guide our customers, and we try to make sure that we're guiding them, and ultimately, it's their decision on which way they go, but it's our job to make sure they have all the right information and our experience with those various solutions as they make those decisions.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of tools that we've got in kind of our tool belt here that we can recommend in multiple categories, to be fair too. We might have 3, 4, 5 partners in one category, and there's really a lot of nitty-gritty details that we need just to be able to give that best recommendation. Sometimes we'll give 3, but sometimes we'll know, right off the bat, this is the perfect solution that we should go with. So next question I really wanted to ask you guys, and maybe we take a two-pronged approach here. Maybe Peter, you handle the e-commerce aspect of this question, and Jerry, you handle the CMS aspect. Is maybe not naming specifics, but just what kind of general tools, partners, products do you guys think, a prospect or a client should consider in their digital journey, whether they're just starting it or maybe they're have a finished product that they want to spruce up a little bit?
Yeah. So wait, which one am I? E-commerce?
E-commerce.
Okay, I'm e-commerce. So e-commerce, building block for any website, you need a platform. So, making sure that platform is the right fit for you. But then there's a ton of components relating to e-commerce: on-site search, checkout, payment processing, loyalty, any sort of like digital marketing tool relating to, if it's product focused, you obviously want your SEO to be great because you want to be higher ranking. Trying to think what else. Live chat support, returns. There's integration. E-commerce is a little bit complicated in terms of the amount of pieces that could be included. But again, like we said earlier, it all just depends on the need and what they're hoping to accomplish. So yeah, there's a ton though.
Yeah, I think on the content side, they're looking for speed, performance, and security, right? And making sure that, and when I say speed, it's speed of the site for the end user across all devices. And I think it's also speed of getting content changes and sites launched, right? So having systems that are agile, that allow you to spin up new content and personalize that content and get it out to your audience where they can find it and search it and access it everywhere. I mean, that's kind of table stakes now for content management systems. But yeah, I think they're looking, folks are looking for that at scale, right? And then obviously that all has to be secure, right? Making sure that nothing goes down,
Yeah.
with.
I think that applies to any website, whether it's e-commerce or not, or content, like hosting, security, making sure everything stays up is is always like priority.
Yeah, and what I've seen, just being in the industry for so long, it's like connected systems and integrations and getting data from one spot to the other in a secure way, in a private way, in a way that everyone's comfortable with, is super important across the board as well, right? So And there's many different ways to go about it. There's many different tools that can offer that, but those are some common themes.
It's definitely a lot to it, and like Peter mentioned, e-commerce might be a little more complicated, but I'm sure we've seen CMS builds in all our years that have been really complicated, and then an e-commerce component got added into it.
That's what we specialize in. Complication. AmericanEagle.com.
We have brands that have maybe parent organizations that have 20, 30, 40 sites, international, multilingual. It can get pretty complex pretty quick. And then, hundreds of content authors, workflows, and making that simple and easy and intuitive and fast and secure and reliable. That's kind of where we come in to stitch all those components together and make customers happy.
Yeah.
None of this is an ad, just speaking from experience. But just kind of, wrapping it all up and looking maybe from the beginning, nothing is always smooth sailing. You're always going to learn lessons. There might be a couple mistakes made. Just maybe what are some of the key lessons that you both have seen, learned, that have kind of helped shape the program to what it is today? Because obviously nothing is perfect. It might not be perfect now either, but there's definitely things that I'm sure you both have seen that have really helped us take a much better approach moving forward from those situations.
So I think since the beginning, or since I've joined at least, the idea of partnerships here has always been AmericanEagle.com will partner with organizations that provide the same level of service that we do. So, in blatant terms, we want to make sure that whoever we're partnering with is like a solid technology. We have tested it out. We've gotten eyes on it. We've made sure that, it's not going to crumble beneath us if we integrate it somewhere. So, and on the other hand, I've definitely seen some partnerships that have maybe slipped through the cracks, and we haven't, dug that deep, and it turns out that they're not the exact solution that they were hoping to be, or that we were hoping that they were going to be. So, it just takes some, a bit more digging. But we always just want to provide clients with a service that matches ours. We want it to be seamless. We want them to think, if AmericanEagle.com recommended it, it must be a great solution for us. So,
yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. We definitely want the intent to be that we're doing that. Sometimes it doesn't happen. There could be changes at organizations, or maybe we didn't look under the hood deep enough. But yeah, that's our intent. I think one of the biggest challenges is prioritizing our time and making sure that we're giving partners the right attention, and they're giving us the right attention, because it's easy to jump on a call and it sounds great and everyone's happy in the beginning, but like it's hard to keep those conversations going, to get others in the organization to see the value, to make sure that we're doing what we committed to all the time. And so I think it's we work really hard to try to honor those commitments, but if we can't, relook at those commitments and what happened, and then honestly just being transparent with those partners when we don't meet those expectations, or if there's a challenge, right? So those are like just high level things that have happened, right? Like we don't meet our goals, or we think that we have an opportunity, but we don't, right? And so those can be tough conversations, but that's where a true partnership or relationship kind of comes in, and you gotta look at it. And if it's time to move on, then maybe it's time to move on. And in the future, we've had partners where we tried it, didn't work, come back a year later, and then it does work, right? And so always keep an open mind, but that momentum is important too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think those tough conversation partnerships sometimes end up being our better and best ones, because I feel like if you can have a very serious and focused, transparent conversation with somebody, and this maybe goes just in general in life as well, right? Usually a relationship ends up being better.
Oh my gosh.
Ends up being better. And I think we've really seen that with our partnerships. So to kind of finish things off here, I want to ask you guys one last question. Obviously, we can't see into the future as much as we try to do, but what do you guys kind of predict the future of partnerships will look like?
I can predict it's going to change. It's always going to be evolving, and it's always going to be different, right? There's always going to be new solutions that we're going to have to look at. There's always going to be more solutions. It's getting more and more complex. There's more and more components. The web is intertwined, and digital marketing, we're offering more services. We're in other regions. So it's definitely going to continue to grow and be more complex. I think the fundamentals are going to probably stay the same, right? Like the foundations of, working with the right customers, companies, focusing on our customers, being transparent. I think that that's going to be consistent, but I think there's going to be more growth areas. AI is one that's pretty new. We have, new technologies, new AI things coming out, and figuring out how we can apply those correctly to our customers' needs, and making sure that they're, seeing through a lot of the hype, and really focusing on the stuff that will help them, drive more revenue or get more customers. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of vetting that comes into some of those solutions, but those are some of my thoughts on where it's going.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it'll definitely change. There are so many different aspects. There's trends in the ecosystems. There's companies that get rounds of funding. There are companies that shut down. There are, pivotal moments at our organization where we decide, we want to focus on one area over another. So, I mean, change is, definitely a difficult thing, but I think that's also what makes our day-to-day job so interesting. So we just have to pivot as the ecosystem pivots.
Yeah,
learn something every day.
Yeah.
In partnerships.
Absolutely. Every day's a holiday.
That's right.
So, yes. So, folks, you've heard it from two of the best here at AmericanEagle.com. I want to thank you both for joining us today. It was definitely a great chat having you both on and kind of sharing your wisdom over the years that you've seen here at AE and all the partnerships that we've had.
Arlind, you've been a gracious host.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, guys. And thank you to everyone for listening to the Lessons for Tomorrow podcast. Find out more about AmericanEagle.com services and today's topic in the description below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with everyone you know. I'm your guest host, Arlind Rojba, and Tim will catch you in the next lesson.